3 months had passed since that day when Tyler and his friends had laughed at Minji's garage. Everything was different now. The old, run-down building was gone. In its place stood a modern, professional-looking shop. The walls were painted fresh white with blue trim. The big sign reading Park and Daughter Precision Motors shined in both English and Korean. Solar panels on the roof provided clean energy. But the biggest change was not the building. It was what was happening inside. Minji stood in the main bay watching her new team work. She had hired 2 apprentice mechanics. Hana Kim was 20 years old. She had been studying engineering in college but hated sitting in classrooms. She wanted to work with her hands, to build real things. When she saw Minji's video, she knew immediately what she wanted to do. She had driven straight to the garage and asked for a job. The other apprentice was Marcus Rodriguez. He was 22 and had taught himself mechanics by watching videos and working on old cars. He grew up poor, with no money for formal training. But he had natural talent and a desperate desire to learn. Minji saw herself in him, someone who loved the work and just needed someone to teach them the right way. And then there was Tyler. 3 months ago, he had been a cocky rich kid who knew nothing about real work. Now his hands were permanently stained with grease. He had calluses from using tools all day. He showed up before anyone else and stayed late to practice. He was still the least skilled of the group, but he worked the hardest. Minji respected that. "Tyler, you're torquing that bolt wrong," Minji called out. "Feel the resistance, don't just crank it down." Tyler stopped and adjusted his technique. "Like this?" Minji checked his work. "Better. Remember, precision means feeling the metal. The torque wrench tells you when to stop, but your hands should already know." This was how Minji taught, the same way her father had taught her. Strict and demanding, but patient with genuine mistakes. She accepted no lazy work, no shortcuts, no good enough. Everything had to be done right. Her apprentices learned quickly that she had 2 modes, completely silent when they did things correctly, or immediately corrective when they did not. The shop was booked solid for the next 3 months. Customers came from all over the Southwest. The viral video had made Minji famous, but people kept coming back because of the quality. Word spread fast in the automotive community. If you wanted something fixed right, you went to Park and Daughter. Minji still did the complex diagnostic work herself. Some engines were too complicated to trust to apprentices yet, but she was teaching them, showing them her process, explaining her thinking. Hana was learning fastest, her engineering background helping her understand the technical aspects. Marcus had incredible instincts, able to hear problems that others missed. Tyler was improving slowly but steadily, his determination making up for his lack of natural talent. One afternoon, an old motorcycle pulled up outside the garage. The rider wore a leather jacket and a vintage helmet. When the helmet came off, Minji froze. It was a woman in her 60s, Korean, with silver hair and a serious face. Minji's hand started shaking. "Grandmother," she whispered. Her grandmother, Lee Soo-jin, looked around the garage slowly. She had not spoken to Minji since before her father's funeral. When Song-ho had chosen to become a mechanic instead of a doctor or lawyer, his mother had been furious. She had refused to support him. She had barely spoken to him for years. And when he died, she had not come to say goodbye. That betrayal had broken Minji's heart. "Why are you here?" Minji asked, her voice cold. Her grandmother did not answer immediately. She walked through the garage, examining everything. She looked at the modern equipment, the organized workspace, the apprentices working carefully on different projects. She stopped at the wall where Song-ho's photo hung, surrounded now by framed magazine articles about Minji. "I saw the video," her grandmother finally said in Korean. "And the articles. Everyone in my community talks about you. My granddaughter, the master mechanic. Is that why you came, because I'm famous now?" Minji felt anger rising in her chest. "You did not come when Dad died. You did not come when I was struggling. But now that strangers respect me, now you show up?" Her grandmother's face tightened. For a moment she looked like she might leave, but then her shoulders sagged. She looked old and tired. I was wrong, she said quietly. About your father. About this work. About everything. Minji wanted to stay angry. She had earned that anger, but something in her grandmother's voice made her pause. My husband, your grandfather, was a craftsman in Korea. Her grandmother continued. He made furniture by hand. Beautiful work, famous in our province. But we were poor. Always poor. I watched him work so hard, create such beauty, and still struggle to feed our family. When we came to America, I wanted different for my son. I wanted him to have money, security, respect. I thought mechanics were just laborers. I was ashamed. She touched Songho's photo gently. But watching you work in that video, seeing the precision, the care, the mastery, I saw my husband. I saw the same dedication, the same artistry, and I understood what I had been too blind to see before. Your father was not just a mechanic. He was an artist, a master. And so are you. Tears ran down her grandmother's cheeks. Minji had never seen her cry before. I am so sorry. Sorry I hurt him. Sorry I never told him I was proud. Sorry I was not there when he died. Sorry I left you alone when you needed family. Minji felt her own tears coming. All the pain from the last year was rising up. The loneliness, the fear, the struggle. She had survived it all, but it had been so hard. So hard to do it alone. I needed you, Minji said, her voice breaking. When he died, I needed you. I was 19 and scared and in debt, and I had no one. I know, her grandmother said. I failed you. I failed him. I cannot change that. But I am here now, if you will let me be. They stood there for a long moment. Then Minji stepped forward and hugged her grandmother. They both cried, holding each other in the middle of the garage. Her apprentices pretended to be busy, giving them privacy. After a while, they separated. Her grandmother wiped her eyes and looked around again. Tell me about your father's last years. Tell me what I missed. They sat in the small office, and Minji talked. She told her grandmother about how her father had spent his last 5 years teaching her everything. How he had known his time was limited and wanted to pass on his knowledge. How patient he had been. How dedicated. How proud he was of her progress. Her grandmother listened to every word, sometimes smiling, sometimes crying. He loved you so much, her grandmother said. He always talked about you when we did speak, which was rare. He said you had a gift that you understood engines better than he ever did. He was just being nice, Minji said. No, her grandmother insisted. A father knows, and he was right. You are extraordinary. Her grandmother stayed for a week. She watched Minji work, saw how she taught her apprentices, observed the respect customers showed her. She met David Chen and thanked him for believing in her granddaughter. She brought traditional Korean food every day, making sure everyone ate well. She told stories about Songho as a boy, filling in pieces of his life that Minji had never known. On her last day, her grandmother pulled out a wooden box. Inside were precision measuring tools, old but perfectly maintained. These were your grandfather's tools from Korea. He used them to create furniture with perfect joints, exact measurements. He would want you to have them. Minji held the tools carefully. They were beautiful, made with the same care that her grandfather had put into his work. She understood now. Her love of precision, her dedication to craft, it ran in her blood. From her grandfather to her father to her. A legacy of mastery. I will use them with honor, Minji promised. Her grandmother hugged her tightly. Make your father proud. You already have. But keep going. Teach others. Spread this knowledge. That is how legacy lives forever. After her grandmother left, Minji felt different, lighter somehow. The weight of anger and hurt she had carried was starting to ease. She had her family back. Broken and complicated, but back. That mattered. The garage continued to grow. Minji's reputation spread further. Motorcycle magazines wrote articles about her techniques. Other shops sent their mechanics to learn from her. She started a formal apprenticeship program, teaching young people the old-school way of doing things. Precision. Care. Doing it right even when no one was watching. Tyler surprised everyone, including himself. 6 months after starting, he was actually competent. Not great, but solid. He could do basic repairs without supervision. More importantly, he had learned patience and humility. The cocky rich kid was gone. In his place was someone who understood the value of earned skill. One evening, after everyone else had gone home, Minji sat alone in the garage. She looked around at everything her father had started, and she had built bigger. The clean workspace, the modern tools mixed with traditional ones, the photos of apprentices she had trained. This was more than a garage now. It was a school, a place where knowledge passed from one generation to the next. The next morning brought a surprise. A young girl, maybe 16 years old, came into the garage with her father. The girl watched Minji work with wide, fascinated eyes. After a while, she whispered to her father, "I want to do that." "Can girls do that?" Minji. Minji woke up the next morning to the sound of her phone buzzing constantly. She reached over from her small bed and picked it up. Her eyes went wide. She had hundreds of notifications. Messages, comments, shares. Jake's video of her rebuilding Tyler's motorcycle had gone viral overnight. The video now had over 500,000 views. People were sharing it everywhere. The comments were incredible. "That girl is a genius," one person wrote. "This is what real skill looks like," said another. "I want her to work on my bike." Dozens of people commented, but it was not just random people. Motorcycle shops were commenting. Racing teams were asking questions. Other mechanics were praising her technique. Women were sharing the video with messages about breaking stereotypes. The video had touched something bigger than just fixing a motorcycle. Minji sat up in bed, not sure how to feel about all this attention. She had always been private. She just wanted to do good work and keep her father's garage running. Now thousands of strangers were watching her work and talking about her. Her garage phone started ringing. It was only 7 in the morning. Who would call this early? She got dressed quickly and went downstairs to the garage. The phone kept ringing all morning. Customers from across Arizona were calling. Some wanted her to work on their motorcycles. Others had classic cars that needed restoration. A few racing teams wanted to know if she did performance builds. Minji wrote down names and numbers, promising to call everyone back. She was overwhelmed. She was just one person. She could not possibly handle all this work alone, but she did not want to turn people away either. This was the break she had been hoping for. Around noon, an expensive black car pulled up outside the garage. Tyler got out, followed by an older man in a nice suit. The man was in his 50s with gray hair and a kind face. This had to be Tyler's father. "Minji, this is my dad, David Chen," Tyler said. David walked into the garage and looked around carefully. He did not judge it like his son had yesterday. He looked past the peeling paint and the worn floor. He saw the quality tools, the organized workspace, the professional equipment. He saw the value beneath the surface. "Tyler showed me the video," David said. "That was impressive work. How long have you been doing this?" "Since I was 12, Minji said. "My father taught me everything." David nodded toward the photo on the wall. "Your father was Song-Ho Park?" Minji was surprised. "You knew him?" "I knew of him," David said. "In the racing community, he was legendary. He built some of the fastest engines in the Southwest. I always wondered why he never expanded his business." "He got sick," Minji explained. "Lung problems from all the chemicals. The last few years he focused on teaching me instead of growing the business." David understood. "And now you're trying to keep his legacy alive." "I'm trying," Minji said. "But it's hard. People don't trust me because I'm young. The building looks bad because I spend all my money on parts and tools. I barely make enough to survive." David walked around the garage, examining everything closely. He picked up a precision measuring tool and nodded with approval. He looked at the organized parts room. He checked the quality of her equipment. Finally, he turned to Minji. "I have a proposition for you," he said. "I want to invest in your garage. Not buy it, invest in it. You would keep full ownership and make all the decisions, but I would provide money for renovations, new equipment, and marketing." Minji stepped back. "Why would you do that?" "Because talent like yours is rare," David said simply. "You're 19 years old and you do work that most mechanics with 20 years of experience couldn't do. That video has been viewed by 500,000 people in less than 24 hours. You have something special here." But you can't succeed if you're struggling just to keep the lights on. What would you want in return? Minji asked suspiciously. 10% of the profits, David said. That's it. You run the business. You make all the technical decisions. I just want to help you succeed. Minji thought about it. She had been struggling for 6 months. Every day was a battle to survive. The debt from her father's medical bills was crushing her. She needed help, but she was afraid of losing control of her father's garage. I have conditions, she said firmly. Name them, David replied. My father's name stays on the sign. Park and Daughter Precision Motors. That's what it'll be called, David smiled. That's a great name. What else? I make all technical decisions. Nobody tells me to cut corners or rush work. Quality comes first, always. Agreed. If I hire and train other mechanics, I train them my father's way. Precision, care, doing things right. No shortcuts. That's exactly what I would want, David said. Minji looked at her father's photo. She wished he was here to tell her what to do. But she already knew what he would say. Pride was good. Stubborn pride was stupid. He had always wanted to expand, to teach others, to grow the business. Sickness and debt had stopped him. She did not have to make the same mistake, okay, she said. Let's do it. They shook hands. David pulled out his phone and made some calls right there. By the end of the day, he had arranged for contractors to come evaluate the building. He set up meetings with equipment suppliers. He contacted a marketing company to help with the social media attention. Tyler had been quiet during all of this. Now he spoke up. Dad, I want to ask Minji something. David nodded for him to continue. Tyler looked nervous. I want to intern here. Learn from you. I know I was a jerk yesterday, but watching you work, I've never been so impressed by anything in my life. I'm a business major, but I don't want to just sit in an office. I want to learn real skills. Minji was shocked. You made fun of this place yesterday. And I was completely wrong, Tyler said. I judged everything by appearance. My whole life I've had everything handed to me. Money, opportunities, whatever I wanted, but I don't actually know how to do anything real. You're my age and you're a master at your craft. I want to learn that. You understand this would be real work? Minji asked. Long hours, hard physical labor, getting dirty every day? I understand, Tyler said seriously. Minji looked at David. You're okay with this? David laughed. I think it would be the best thing that ever happened to him. Tyler has been coasting through life. He needs to learn what real work looks like. Minji thought about it. She could use help in the garage. And if Tyler was serious about learning, maybe he deserved a chance. Everyone deserved a chance to prove they could change. Okay, she said, but I'm a tough teacher. If you complain or quit, don't bother coming back. Tyler grinned. Deal, when do I start? Tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Tyler's smile faded a bit. 6 in the morning? Real work starts early, Minji said. Problem? No problem, Tyler said quickly. I'll be here. Over the next few days, things moved fast. The viral video kept spreading. It reached over 2 million views. News websites wrote articles about Minji. Teenage mechanic rebuilds engine in 6 hours. Girl proves critics wrong at desert garage. The attention kept growing. Local TV news came to interview Minji. She was uncomfortable on camera, but she talked about her father, about learning mechanics, about doing quality work. The interview aired and brought even more attention. Her phone would not stop ringing with people wanting work done. David's investment started showing results. Contractors came and began fixing the garage exterior. They painted the walls, fixed the roof, and replaced the rusty sign. The new sign read Park and Daughter Precision Motors in big letters, with a Korean translation underneath. Her father would have loved it. Inside, new equipment started arriving. A modern hydraulic lift, an updated diagnostic computer system, better lighting, air conditioning that actually worked. Minji kept her father's old tools and workbenches. The new equipment supplemented the old, creating a perfect blend of traditional craftsmanship and modern technology. Tyler showed up at 6 a.m. the next day. He looked tired but determined. Minji put him to work immediately. Simple tasks at first. Organizing tools, cleaning parts, watching and learning. Tyler did not complain. He worked hard, asked questions, and listened carefully to her answers. By the end of the first week, Minji had to admit that Tyler was serious. He showed up early every day. He did whatever she asked without arguing. He was terrible at most mechanical tasks, but he was trying. And he was learning. "You're not as useless as I thought you'd be," Minji told him on Friday afternoon. Tyler smiled. "Is that your way of saying I'm doing okay?" "Don't let it go to your head," Minji said. But she almost smiled. The garage was changing fast. The building looked professional now. The interior was clean and modern. But Minji made sure the heart stayed the same. Her father's photo remained on the wall. His tools stayed on the main workbench. His philosophy guided every repair. On Sunday, Minji stood outside and looked at the transformed garage. In just 1 week, everything had changed. The building looked completely different, but inside where it mattered, it was still her father's place, still dedicated to precision and quality, still teaching people to do things right. She thought about the future. Maybe her father's dream of having a bigger shop was actually going to happen. Maybe his legacy would grow beyond this one building. Maybe she could teach others the way he had taught her, for the first time. Minji stepped back from the motorcycle and wiped her hands on a rag. The engine was back in the frame. Every wire was connected. Every hose was attached. Every bolt was tightened to the exact specification. She had been working for 5.5 hours straight without a break. Her back hurt and her hands were tired, but she was almost finished. Tyler and his friends stood around the bike, watching her every move. They had completely stopped recording mean videos. Now Jake was filming because he was genuinely impressed. He had captured the entire rebuild process. None of them had ever seen anything like this before. "Just the body panels left," Minji said. She began putting the plastic fairings back onto the motorcycle. Each piece clicked into place exactly where it belonged. The shiny red and black exterior covered up all the mechanical work underneath. Within 15 minutes, the bike looked perfect again. Nobody would know that the entire engine had been rebuilt just hours ago. "Now what?" Tyler asked nervously. "Now we fill it with fresh fluids and see if it starts," Minji said. She grabbed bottles of new engine oil and poured them carefully into the bike. She checked the coolant level and topped it off. She inspected every visible connection one more time. Her father had taught her to always do a final check. "Mistakes happen when you rush at the end," he used to say. The sun was touching the horizon now. The desert sky was turning orange and purple. It had been exactly 6 hours since Tyler and his friends had first arrived. Minji had said she would have the bike running by sunset. She was right on time. She walked around the motorcycle slowly, looking at everything one last time. Her eyes scanned for any loose wires, any leaking fluids, any problems. Everything looked perfect. She took a deep breath and sat on the bike. Tyler held his breath. His friends stopped talking. The garage was completely silent except for the sound of the desert wind outside. Minji closed her eyes for a moment and said something quietly in Korean. It sounded like a prayer. Then she pressed the starter button. The engine turned over once, twice. Then it roared to life. The sound was beautiful, smooth and powerful like a big cat purring. There was no knocking, no grinding, no strange noises at all. The engine sounded better than it ever had before. It sounded perfect. Tyler's mouth fell open. His friends started cheering. Jake was filming everything, his hands shaking with excitement. Minji sat on the bike calmly, listening carefully to every sound the engine made. She knew motors like other people knew music. She could hear if anything was wrong, but nothing was wrong. Everything was right. She let the engine warm up slowly, watching the temperature gauge. After a few minutes, she gently revved the engine. The response was instant and smooth. She revved it harder, and the bike responded perfectly. The sound echoed through the garage, powerful and clean. After 5 minutes of warm-up, Minji shut off the engine. She got off the bike and walked to her computer. She plugged a diagnostic cable into the motorcycle and pulled up all the engine data on her screen. "Come look at this," she said to Tyler. Tyler walked over and stared at the screen. There were graphs and numbers everywhere. Minji pointed to different readings. Oil pressure is perfect, actually higher than factory specification because of the upgraded pump. Engine temperature is ideal. Compression in all cylinders is excellent and even. Every sensor is reading correctly. Your bike is running better than new. She had documented everything with photos throughout the rebuild. She showed Tyler the pictures of the destroyed old piston and the scratched cylinder. Then she showed him the new parts and the precise measurements. She had a complete record of every step. Tyler stared at the bike, then at Minji, then back at the bike. He could not believe what had just happened. 6 hours ago, his engine was destroyed. Now it was better than ever. This girl he had mocked and insulted had just done what a dealership said was impossible. "I'm an idiot," Tyler said quietly. "A complete idiot." Minji just nodded. "Yes, you were." Tyler's friends laughed, but not meanly this time. They pushed Tyler forward gently. "Apologize properly," Jake said. Tyler struggled to find the right words. His throat felt tight. He had been so confident, so cocky. He had judged this garage by its appearance. He had judged Minji by her age and gender. He had been completely wrong about everything. "I'm sorry," he finally said. "For everything. The things I said about your dad, about this place, about you. I was wrong. Really wrong." Minji finished wiping her hands. She looked tired but satisfied. "You're not the first person to judge me. You won't be the last." "How much do I owe you?" Tyler asked. Minji did a quick calculation in her head. "Parts cost me about $800. Labor for a complete rebuild is normally $2,400, so $3,200 total." Tyler remembered the bet they had made. "I said I'd pay triple if you fixed it. That's $9,600. "I don't want charity," Minji said firmly. "It's not charity," Tyler insisted. "It's the bet. And honestly, it's what I would have paid at the dealership anyway. Plus, they would have taken 3 weeks. You did it in 6 hours and made it better." Jake jumped in. "He's right. Plus, you saved him from having his bike stuck here for weeks. That's worth something too." Minji hesitated. $9,600 was a huge amount of money. That would cover her rent and expenses for more than 2 months. It would let her pay down some of her father's debt. But she hated feeling like she was taking advantage of someone. "The bet was your idea," Marcus added. "You have to honor it." Tyler already had his phone out. "What's your payment app?" Minji gave him her information. A moment later, her phone buzzed. She looked at the screen. $9,600 had just been transferred to her account. She stared at the number, almost not believing it. "Thank you," she said quietly. Tyler walked over to his motorcycle. He ran his hand along the seat, then the gas tank. "It really sounds amazing. Better than before. The upgrades I made will help it last longer," Minji explained. "But you need to change how you ride it. Let it warm up before you push it hard. Change the oil regularly. Treat the engine with respect." "I will," Tyler promised. "I definitely will." He started the bike again. The sound made him smile. He had not expected to smile today. He had expected to be stranded in this small town, dealing with a broken motorcycle and a huge repair bill. Instead, he had his bike back, running better than ever. But something else had changed too. Tyler looked around the garage with new eyes. He saw the precision tools, the organized workspace, the professional equipment. He saw Minji, young like him but with skills that took years to develop. He saw real craftsmanship, not just people who talked big but did not know how to back it up. "Can I ask you something?" Tyler said. Minji was cleaning her tools, putting everything back in its proper place. "What? How did you get so good at this?" Minji paused. She looked at her father's photo on the wall. "My dad started teaching me when I was really young. Not because he wanted me to be a mechanic, but because I was always curious. I wanted to know how everything worked. He showed me that machines are like puzzles. Every part has a purpose. Every piece fits in a specific way. If you pay attention and care about getting it right, you can fix almost anything." "Do you like doing this?" Jake asked. "I love it," Minji said simply. "Every engine is different. Every problem is a challenge. And when you figure it out, when you get it running perfectly, it feels amazing. Like you brought something dead back to life." Tyler sat on his bike, not starting it yet. "I'm a business major. My dad owns car dealerships. I always thought I'd just manage things from an office. But watching you work today, I don't know. I've never seen anyone care about their craft like that." "You have to care," Minji said. "If you don't care, you cut corners. You do the minimum. The work shows it. I learned from my dad that if you're going to do something, do it right. Even if nobody else notices, you'll know." Marcus was looking at the photo of Minji's father. What would he think about today? Minji smiled, a real smile this time. He'd be proud. Not because I proved something to you guys, but because I did good work. That's what mattered to him. The quality of the work, not the opinions of the customers. The sun had set completely now. The garage lights made everything glow yellow. Tyler's friends started heading toward their motorcycles. It was time to go. They had a long ride back to Phoenix, but Tyler did not move. He was thinking about something. He pulled out his phone and called someone. After a few rings, a man answered. Dad? Yeah, the bike is fixed. You won't believe what happened. Can you drive down here tomorrow? There's someone I want you to meet. Minji looked at him with surprise. Tyler ended the call and looked at her seriously. My dad owns Chen Auto Group, 5 dealerships in Phoenix. He's always looking for talented mechanics. Would you be interested in talking to him? Minji shook her head. I'm not leaving this garage. It's all I have of my father. I'm not asking you to leave. I'm asking if you'd talk to him about expanding, about getting proper funding. You're amazing at what you do, but this place is falling apart on the outside. You're barely surviving. What if you had the resources to really succeed? I don't know, she said honestly. Just talk to him, Tyler. Tyler and his 4 friends sat in the shade across from Minji's garage. They were not leaving. They wanted to see her fail. Tyler kept checking his watch every few minutes. He was angry and embarrassed. His expensive motorcycle was broken, and now he had to rely on a girl he had just mocked. This is such a waste of time, Tyler said. She's probably in there trying to figure out which end of a wrench to use. His friend Jake was not so sure. I don't know, man. She diagnosed the problem in like 2 minutes. The dealership said the same thing. Anyone can guess what's wrong, Tyler shot back. Actually fixing it is different. There's no way she can rebuild that engine in 6 hours. Professionals take weeks. Another friend, Marcus, had his phone out. He was recording the garage from across the street. This is going to be great content. We'll show everyone what happens when you trust your bike to some random garage in the middle of nowhere. Inside the garage, Minji had already started working. She set up her phone on a tripod to record everything she was doing. She wanted proof of her work. She knew Tyler and his friends would not believe her otherwise. The camera angle showed her workbench and the motorcycle clearly. First, she removed all the body panels from the bike. The shiny red and black plastic came off piece by piece. She laid each part carefully on a clean blanket, organizing them in order. Under the pretty exterior, the engine was a mess. She could see oil leaking from multiple places. The smell of burned metal filled the air. Minji grabbed her tools and began removing the engine from the frame. Her hands moved quickly and confidently. She had done this type of work hundreds of times. Every bolt had to come out in the right order. Every wire had to be disconnected carefully. One mistake could damage other parts. Across the street, Tyler stood up and walked closer to the garage. He peered through the window. Minji had the engine halfway out already. He was surprised at how fast she was working. What's she doing? Jake asked, joining him at the window. Taking it apart, Tyler admitted. Pretty quickly, actually. Marcus kept filming. Anybody can take things apart. Let's see if she can put it back together. Minji got the engine completely out and placed it on her workbench. She grabbed a drain pan and removed the oil plug. Dirty oil poured out, full of metal shavings that glittered in the light. This confirmed the catastrophic failure. Pieces of the broken piston had gone everywhere inside the engine. She began the careful process of opening up the engine. Each bolt had to be removed in sequence. She used a torque wrench and kept checking measurements. After 30 minutes, she had the engine completely disassembled. Every single part was laid out on her bench in perfect order. The damage was worse than she expected. The piston had shattered into several pieces. The cylinder wall had deep scratches. Metal fragments had gotten into the oil pump. Even the crankshaft had some scoring. This was going to be challenging, but she could do it. Minji walked to the back room of her garage. From outside, that room looked like a junk storage area. But when she opened the door, it was actually perfectly organized. Metal shelving units lined the walls, each shelf labeled in both Korean and English. Drawers contained carefully sorted parts. Her father had spent decades collecting components for different types of engines. She knew exactly where to find what she needed. A new piston for this exact Ducati model, gasket sets, bearings. She even had upgraded parts that were better than the original factory components. Her father had always believed in keeping a good inventory. The right part at the right time saves a customer days of waiting, he used to say. Tyler had walked around to the side of the building. He saw Minji through a different window, going through her parts inventory. His eyes widened. The organized shelving, the labeled drawers, the professional setup. This was not what he expected. Jake was filming through the window now. Dude, he whispered. Look at all those parts. This place is actually legit. It's just parts, Tyler said, but his voice was less confident now. Minji returned to her workbench with everything she needed. Now came the most important part. The cylinder walls had to be perfectly smooth. She set up a cylinder honing machine. This tool would polish the inside of the cylinder to exact specifications. The measurement had to be perfect to within 1/1000th of an inch. Too big and the piston would not seal properly. Too small and the piston would not fit. She worked slowly and carefully. She measured the cylinder with a special tool called a micrometer. She checked the measurement 3 times. Then she started the honing machine. The sound of metal on metal filled the garage. She stopped every few minutes to measure again. This process could not be rushed. 2 hours had passed. Tyler was getting impatient. He walked into the garage without asking. Minji looked up from her work but did not tell him to leave. "How long is this going to take?" he asked. "As long as it needs to," Minji said, not stopping her work. "Good work takes time." Tyler looked at the completely disassembled engine. Every part was labeled with a small piece of tape. Everything was organized perfectly. He saw the new piston sitting nearby along with other new components. "Where did you learn to do this?" he asked. "My father," Minji said. She kept measuring the cylinder wall, checking her numbers against a chart. "He built race engines for 30 years before he opened this shop. Why does the outside look so bad then?" Minji finally looked at him. "Because I spend my money on tools and parts, not on paint. Would you rather have a pretty building or someone who can actually fix your bike?" Tyler had no answer for that. He looked around the garage more carefully now. The floor was clean and organized. The tools were high quality and well maintained. There was a rolling toolbox that probably cost $5,000. A professional engine lift, a diagnostic computer system. "This was real equipment. What happened to your dad?" Tyler asked quietly. Minji's hands paused for just a second. He had emphysema. From years of breathing in chemicals and fumes, he spent his last 5 years teaching me everything he knew. Then he had a heart attack. He died before the ambulance arrived. "I'm sorry," Tyler said. He meant it. "He left me this garage and a lot of debt," Minji continued, going back to her work. "Most people don't want to bring their vehicles to a 19-year-old girl. They think I don't know what I'm doing. So I take whatever work I can get. Truck repairs, fleet maintenance, anything to keep the lights on." Tyler felt ashamed. He thought about the things he had said outside. The way he had laughed at her garage and mocked her father's photo. He wanted to apologize, but the words felt stuck in his throat. Minji finished honing the cylinder. She measured it one last time. Perfect. She cleaned everything carefully, removing every bit of metal dust. Then she began the assembly process. The new piston had to be installed with perfect clearance. Too tight and it would seize. Too loose and it would not seal properly. She showed Tyler the measurement. "See this? 0.0015 inches of clearance. That's exactly what the manufacturer specifies." "How do you measure that precisely?" Tyler asked. Minji showed him the micrometer. "This tool measures in thousandths of an inch. You have to check multiple spots to make sure everything is round and even." Tyler watched as she carefully slid the new piston into the cylinder. It fit perfectly. She installed new piston rings, checking the gap on each one. Then came the connecting rod, the bearings, and the crankshaft. Every part was torqued to exact specifications. She had a chart that showed the exact force needed for each bolt. Jake and the others came inside now. They had stopped making fun of the situation. They watched Minji work with growing respect. She was not just throwing parts together. Every movement was precise. Every measurement was checked multiple times. "Why are you replacing this part?" Jake asked, pointing to a component. "It doesn't look broken. It's worn," Minji explained. When the piston exploded, the metal fragments damaged other parts. "I could leave this old part in and the engine would run, but it would fail again in a few thousand miles. If I'm rebuilding this engine, I'm rebuilding it right." She installed an upgraded oil pump and better oil passages. These were performance parts that would actually make the engine better than it was originally. The improvements would help prevent this type of failure from happening again. "You're making it better than factory?" Marcus asked, his phone still recording. "Your friend rides this bike hard," Minji said, not looking up. "Cold starts and then immediate redlining. That's what killed the original engine. These upgrades will give better oil flow and cooling. It should prevent future problems." Tyler felt his face get hot. She was right. He always started his bike and immediately took off at high speed. He thought it made him look cool. Now he realized it was destroying his engine. 4 hours had passed. The engine was taking shape again. Minji worked steadily, never rushing, never making mistakes. She installed the rebuilt head, connecting all the valves and camshafts. She connected the fuel system and electrical components. Everything was coming together. "How many engines have you rebuilt?" Jake asked. "Lost count after 100, Minji said. She was installing the timing chain now, making sure every mark lined up perfectly. "My dad had me Rebbe." The summer sun burned hot over the small Arizona town. The desert stretched out in every direction, dry and dusty. On the edge of the main road sat an old garage. The paint was peeling off the walls. The metal sign was covered in rust. Old tires and engine parts sat outside in piles. To anyone driving by, it looked like a place that should be torn down. Inside that garage, Minji Park wiped sweat from her face. She was 19 years old, small and thin, with her black hair tied back in a messy ponytail. Her hands were covered in grease. Her blue coveralls had oil stains everywhere. She was lying under an old pickup truck, fixing its transmission. The work was hard, but she knew exactly what she was doing. Minji had owned this garage for 6 months. Her father had died suddenly from a heart attack last winter. He left her the garage, his tools, and a mountain of debt. Everyone told her to sell it. A teenage girl could not run a mechanic shop, they said. But Minji refused to give up. Her father had taught her everything he knew. She had been working on engines since she was 12 years old. This garage was all she had left of him. The problem was that nobody wanted to bring their cars to her. They saw the rundown building. They saw a young girl. They did not believe she could fix anything. Most days, she only got 1 or 2 customers. She was barely making enough money to keep the lights on, but she kept working. She kept the inside of the garage clean and organized. Her tools were perfect. Her work was excellent. She just needed people to give her a chance. That afternoon, Minji heard the loud sound of motorcycles coming down the road. She rolled out from under the truck and stood up. 5 expensive motorcycles pulled into her parking lot. The bikes were shiny and new, probably costing more than most cars. The riders were young men, around her age, maybe a bit older. They wore expensive riding gear and designer sunglasses. The leader of the group took off his helmet. His name was Tyler. He had messy blonde hair and a cocky smile. He looked at Minji's garage and started laughing. His friends joined in. They pointed at the peeling paint and the rusty sign. They took out their phones and started recording videos. "Dude, this place looks like it should be condemned," one of them said loudly. "Is this even a real business?" another one asked, still laughing. Minji walked toward them, wiping her hands on a rag. She kept her face calm, even though anger was building inside her. She had dealt with people like this before. Men who did not take her seriously. People who judged her garage without looking inside. "Can I help you?" she asked in a steady voice. Tyler's motorcycle was making a bad sound. A deep knocking noise came from the engine. He looked worried about it, but when he saw Minji, he just laughed harder. "Does your dad actually work here?" he asked. "Or are you just playing mechanic?" His friends thought this was hilarious. They kept recording with their phones. Minji felt her hands tighten into fists, but she forced herself to stay professional. "I own this garage," she said. "I can look at your bike if you want." Tyler looked at his friends and they all laughed again. "You want to touch my bike? This cost $25,000. I'm not letting some girl in a junkyard touch it." One of his friends walked closer to the garage. He looked through the open door and saw a photo on the wall. It showed an older Korean man standing next to a race car. That was Minji's father. "Is that the guy who couldn't even maintain his own shop?" the friend asked, pointing at the photo. Something snapped inside Minji. That was her father, the man who taught her everything, the man who worked himself to death trying to keep this garage running. But she bit her tongue. Getting angry would not help. "My father was a master mechanic for 30 years, she said, her voice tight. "He taught me everything I know. I've been rebuilding engines since I was 12. Tyler made a show of looking around at the garage. "Right, and I'm sure you're amazing. Look, we'll just push the bike to the next town. No way I'm leaving my Ducati with you." Just then Tyler's motorcycle engine made a terrible grinding sound. Smoke started coming out. The engine died completely. Tyler ran over and tried to start it again. Nothing happened. The bike would not turn over. His face went white. No, 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 he kept saying. He tried the starter again and again. The bike was dead. His friends stopped laughing. They all knew that Tyler's bike was his pride and joy. He had spent months customizing it. One of them pulled out his phone and searched for other mechanics nearby. Nearest shop is 50 miles away, he said, and they're closed until Monday. Tyler looked sick. It was Saturday afternoon. They were stuck in the middle of nowhere. His expensive motorcycle was broken, and the only mechanic around was the girl he had just insulted. Minji walked over to the bike. "Let me look at it," she said. "Don't touch it," Tyler snapped. "Then you can wait until Monday and pay for a tow truck," Minji said calmly. "Your choice." Tyler looked at his friends. They all shrugged. He had no other option. "Fine," he said, "but if you break anything, I'm suing you." Minji ignored the threat. She bent down next to the motorcycle and listened carefully. She touched different parts of the engine. She checked the oil. After just 2 minutes, she stood up. "Catastrophic engine failure," she said. "Your piston shattered. The cylinder walls are damaged. The oil system is contaminated with metal pieces." Tyler's face went even whiter. "How bad is that?" "At a dealership? About $8,000 to fix. Maybe more. And they'll need to order parts. Could take 3 weeks." One of Tyler's friends whistled. "Dude, that's serious." Tyler pulled out his phone and called the Ducati dealership in Phoenix. He described the sounds the bike had made. The mechanic on the phone confirmed everything Minji had said. The repair would cost between $7,000 and $9,000. The wait would be at least 3 weeks. Tyler's insurance would not cover it because it was mechanical failure, not an accident. He hung up the phone and stared at his dead motorcycle. All his mocking and laughing seemed stupid now. He needed help, and this girl he had insulted was his only option. "Can you actually fix this?" he asked quietly. Minji looked at him for a long moment. She could say no. She could tell him to call a tow truck and wait. He deserved it after the way he had treated her. But that was not who she was. Her father had taught her to take pride in her work, not in punishing rude customers. "I can rebuild the whole engine," she said. "Today." Everyone started laughing again. Even Tyler smiled. "That's impossible. The dealership said 3 weeks." "The dealership has to order parts and fit you into their schedule," Minji explained. "I have the parts here, and I have time right now. 6 hours. I can have it running perfectly by sunset." Tyler looked at her like she was crazy. His friends were recording again. Sure, this would be funny content for their social media. 6 hours, Tyler repeated, to completely rebuild a Ducati engine. "Yes," Minji said simply. Tyler thought about it. He really had no choice. "Okay, fine. But when you can't do it, I want you to admit that this place is a joke. And when I do fix it," Minji said, "you're going to pay me triple my normal rate. Deal?" Tyler laughed and agreed. He was sure she would fail. "Sure, triple. When you can't do it, though, you have to agree this garage should close down." Minji just nodded. She was done talking. She grabbed the handlebars of Tyler's motorcycle and wheeled it into her garage. Tyler and his friends set up chairs across the street in the shade. They were not going anywhere. They wanted to watch her fail. They kept their phones out, ready to record her mistakes. Inside the garage, Minji looked at the photo of her father on the wall. "Watch me make you proud, Dad," she whispered. Then she got to work.